Okay, we're recording now. And oops, I'm on the wrong page. That's the wrong class. There we go. Okay, so back to our notes. We're going to go back to lesson 7, and lesson 7 has 2 parts. We did the first part, and then we skipped to property tax. So let's go back and do the second part of lesson 7. So if you look back at lesson 7, we are right here on energy efficiency. Okay? And, okay, list what homeowners can do to use energy more efficiently. So saving energy, saving the cost of heating your house and using electricity, not only does that save you money, but of course there is a greater responsibility that we all have to not waste the energy resources of the planet that we're on, right? I mean, as much as we like to think that, you know, energy resources will last forever, some of them won't, right? Probably not in my lifetime, but possibly in yours, fossil fuels will get so scarce that there will be no choice but to replace anything that runs on gasoline or coal with a different alternative. So, so just the general thinking that we have to use the energy that we use more efficiently is something that we should all kind of take on as a responsibility in our lives. So when you own a house, what can you do to use energy more efficiently? And of course, there's some big things like invest in more energy efficient appliances replace older doors and windows with newer, more energy efficient models. I just did this in my house actually about 2 years ago. We just got all new windows on the second floor of my house. I have a 2-story house, and the main floor is the dining room, the kitchen, the living room, and then the second floor is where all 4 bedrooms are. And we replaced the main floor windows a long time ago, but we didn't bother with the upstairs ones. We were just kind of waiting till we kind of had the cash to do it. And then in the end, we ended up using Manitoba Hydro will lend you money at basically 0 interest so that you can replace windows in your house. It's called an energy loan or a hydro loan. Now, banks might be going, wait, what are these guys doing? Hey, they're taking money out of our mouths. What are you lending people money for no interest? Well, it's in Hydro's best interest. Remember, Manitoba Hydro is a government, a crown corporation. It's not run for profit, right? So they don't really want you using more energy. One of the big drawbacks of countries where their energy corporations are run for profit is that they're going to try to encourage you to use as much energy as possible. They don't really want you buying energy efficient appliances and stuff. This came to a really big head in the 1990s. A private company that was in charge of a significant amount of California's energy grid named Enron. Do some Google research on just how, for lack of a better word, evil the company Enron actually got. You know, they if people fell behind on their bills, they just shut off their power. You know, they didn't care if people froze. People who had life-saving machines in their houses because they had medical conditions didn't care. And to drive up the prices of energy, they would even manufacture, like completely lie about having shortages of power. And they actually caused blackouts the way a storm would cause a blackout, just to drive up the prices of their energy storage. So, yikes. Here in Manitoba, of course, Manitoba Hydro is a government-run company, and they're not, they only want to make enough money to pay their employees, pay for their infrastructure, pay for all their buildings and machinery and stuff, and perhaps expand so that they can be ready to meet power needs in the future. They're not making profits for shareholders. They're not making profits so that they can sell shares of their company on the open stock market. It's not a private company, it's a public one. So that means that it's in their best interest to encourage you, the consumer, to not waste energy. And one of the ways they'll do that is they will incentivize you to replace your windows. Older windows leak, they lose heat, they lose energy. Newer windows don't. So they'll lend you the money to replace your windows. So there you go. That's what we did. And I think we probably paid it off already. But yeah, a couple of years ago, we got all new windows, and boy, we noticed the difference. We noticed how much easier it was with new windows versus 60-year-old windows. How much easier it was to hold the heat in our upstairs bedrooms in the winter and to keep those rooms cooler in the summer. That's always the biggest challenge, right? Because in your house, heat rises naturally, right? So keeping your house cool on the second floor in the summer is always the hardest part. But with the new windows, holy cow, we really noticed the difference. Plus, we live on a fairly busy street, so it was way quieter too. We really got a sense like, do you guys notice how quiet your rooms are all of a sudden? And my kids were like, yeah, it's really different. So this is a really big one. If you are trying to conserve energy because you want your energy costs to go down, but just because you're a responsible person who cares about how much energy you consume, keeping your doors and windows new versus old and broken down is a huge, huge difference. So this is a big one. Then there's some little things you can do. Like, for example, I know somebody here is probably like, oh my word, my dad's on about this all the time. Turn off lights and electrical devices, I'll say etc., in rooms you aren't using at the moment. How many people leave the room and leave the TV running? How many people leave the lights on in rooms where there's nobody in there? It does add up. It actually does add to your energy bill, and it is a waste of electricity. Okay, so that's kind of the main stuff. There's other little things you can do for energy efficiency. This one's actually maybe should count as a bigger one. Make sure that your I'll say it this way. Make sure your attic is, I'll say, insulated up to code, right? There is, of course, a code. It has to be inspected by a home inspector who will say, okay, your insulation is good. But if your insulation is worn out, too old, there's gaps in the insulation where heat can escape through your roof, that will cost you a lot in your energy bills. Okay, so let's do some math here. Dan and Karen pay about $1,700 per year to heat their house with a conventional furnace. The cost of buying and installing a high efficiency furnace is $4,800. How much would it cost Dan and Karen to heat their house with a new furnace? So here's the chart below. The conventional furnace is 60% efficient, and what that means is 60% of the energy that the furnace I just misspelled furnace. Furnace. Furnace uses is converted to, I'm going to say usable heat. Now, what do I mean by usable heat? Okay, everybody I'm sure remembers from science class when they talked about the difference between, of course, an incandescent light bulb. That's pretty good. That's my light bulb. And, of course, a fluorescent light bulb. One of these guys that has the, little knobs at the end, and there we go, one of those guys. Now, they both shed light, but 95% of the electricity that goes to this kind of a light bulb is radiated as heat in this tungsten coil. Only 5% is the efficiency of this light bulb. Only 5% of the electricity. So that's why they finally decided we're making these illegal. You can't buy these anymore. There might be some left over in dollar stores from old stock and stuff, but they're no longer producing incandescent light bulbs. With rare exception for a few appliances that can't run fluorescent for various technical reasons. For the most part, you cannot buy regular, it's called incandescent light bulbs anymore. Everything's been replaced with either LED or fluorescent, which tend to be more like about 90% efficient versus 5% efficient. 90% of the energy that goes in is light coming out. You only lose 10%, and you don't even lose most of it as heat. A lot of it you lose as light that we can't see, like ultraviolet light, right? So, yeah, if that is something you've ever talked about in your science class, okay. The appliances in your house are the same basic idea. You have a furnace. Electricity or natural gas runs your furnace, but the furnace, of course, is supposed to put heat out into the house. But the furnace itself gets hot, the parts get hot, the burners get hot. And in a conventional old-fashioned furnace, about 40% of the energy is not usable heat. It's just the heat inside the furnace itself that isn't being pushed into the house. Whereas with a high-efficiency furnace, 95% of the energy that the furnace uses is converted to usable heat. So it will pay for itself fairly quickly. So how much would it cost Dan and Karen to heat their house with a new furnace? So right now they're paying $1,700 a year. This is 95% efficient. So there's a formula for this. Hang on a sec. You know what? Let me just make sure that I find the formula sheet. I'm just going to pause the video while I go look for the formula sheet. I don't want to give you a different formula than the one that's on the formula sheet, and I'm not looking at a formula sheet right now. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the formula, the way that it looks on the formula sheet is B over A times C, where here's what the letters stand for. A is the proposed efficiency. B is the existing efficiency. And C is the present heating cost. Or it doesn't have to be heating, just energy use, right? Because this isn't just for furnaces. This would work for any appliance. You want to replace your old fridge with a new, more efficient fridge. You want to replace your old dryer. I think we've had this conversation before. There's another thing Manitoba Hydro does, right? They have lots of commercials saying, retire your old fridge. How many people have an old fridge in their basement that doesn't even have much in it, but it's running all the time? That's probably $200 a year on your energy bill just to run some old fridge. Washing things that don't need to be washed in hot water in cold water. How many people actually bother to do that? There are things that you would clean just fine in cold water and save yourself, again, probably a couple $100 a year on your energy bill because you're not wasting all that heat on water that's just going to wash clothes that don't need to be washed in hot water. Anyway, so how much would it cost to heat their house with the new furnace? Um, so basically we take the existing efficiency, which is 60%, so I'm using this little formula here, 60%, divided by the proposed efficiency, which is 95%, and I times it by the current heating cost, and what did they say it was? $1,700, so times that by $1,700. And as you can see then, I'll punch buttons on this, 60 divided by 95 times 1,700 is, okay, this is money, so make sure you round it to 2 decimal places, $1,073.68. So that's how much, so that's my A answer. That's how much their bill would be if they changed to the new furnace. What's their bill right now? $1,700. So their savings is $1,700 minus $1,073.68. So I'm going to now minus, oops, 1,700 minus 1,073.68, and that saves them $626.32 a year, right? So now, notice that the furnace that they want to buy costs $4,800. That's not cheap, but if you're saving this much a year, then here's another little formula for you. Cost of appliance upgrade divided by the savings per year would be $4,800 divided by $626.32, and I think that's going to be about 7. So $4,800 divided by 626.32. So yeah, there you go. 7.7 years. So yes, this is a lot of money just for a new furnace when the one that I'm using maybe still works, but in 8 years it will have paid for itself, and you will have saved a lot of wasted electricity. So there we go. That's basically the only calculations you need to be able to do, is these kind of 2 little formulas here, where you have this and basically that, okay? In addition to those 2 formulas, we should maybe take a quick look at one of these. Oh, sorry. We've seen one of these before, but this is, of course, an energy guide label. Every major appliance that uses a significant amount of energy has to have one of these labels when you buy it new, according to Canadian law. And it tells you, this big number here is the annual energy consumption of the appliance in what's called kilowatt hours. Kilowatt is a measure of power, and kilowatt hours means the amount of power you use every hour to run a device. And the lower the number, of course, the better and more efficient it is. The energy consumption indicator is this number here, this 2, and it shows you how this model compares to others in its class. So the further the indicator is to the left of the scale, the better. So if this little arrow is further left, that means, oh, it's a pretty efficient machine compared to other machines made by, say, different companies. The further to the right it is, the more of an energy pig it kind of is, okay? And of course, the endpoints, the left and right, show you kind of the most efficient type of appliance like this one you could buy, and this is like the worst energy pig type of that appliance that you could buy. And then this tells you, again, kind of a range of comparable models in terms of how much. In this case, this is for, I think, a washing machine or a dryer, so it's giving you a capacity for how much it can hold. Number 4 is not the important one. 1 and 2 are kind of the important ones. If you're looking for a device and you see this number seems high and you look on this thing and it's like, whoa, this little arrow is way at the right, then yeah, you could buy a more efficient version of that machine. Just keep shopping. So that's your energy guide stickers. And now you've seen how to do the calculations, and that's about it for the second part of lesson 7. So I'll stop my video here.